Today on the Fit Dads podcast, we're joined by Phil Roberts, who's the co-owner of Station Gym, an ex-police officer and formerly England's strongest man. He's travelled the world competing on the world's strongest man circuit before a terrible injury led to a change in direction. Mental health post-injury had a huge impact on Phil and the path he's now found to help him continue to move forwards. So today Phil's going to talk to us about what motivates him, how he's bounced back from major adversity, and what the future holds for him and his passions. So please welcome to the podcast, the father of Station Gym, Phil Roberts.
So that's how you got it.
I like that. We were wondering how we were going to link in the dad's aspects. Phil, thanks for coming on, mate.
No, pleasure. Absolute pleasure to be here.
Obviously, we know you as the big guy around the gym, really. The guy who's usually deadlifting and bench pressing more than what most people are in the gym. But obviously you've had some massive trials and tribulations through the sport that you played, some highs, lows. We want to get to know every aspect of your journey today. So I think we just start from the beginning, basically. How did you get into Strongman?
So, right at the beginning?
Yes, right at the beginning.
So, Strongman, for me, came after I fell in love with the gym. As a child, I was a very nervous child. I was scared of everything. I was scared of the dark. I was scared of police officers, which is ironic. Scared of anything, basically, anything in authority. And I got to about 12 years old. I was even scared of trying new foods I'd not tried before. And I got to about 12 years old and I thought to myself, I don't know why, just a weird situation where I just had a word with myself and said, stop being scared of everything. So I was looking, how can you stop being scared of anything? So my kind of idols at that time.
How old were you at this time?
I was about 12. 12. So everyone's got that friend, haven't they, where their parents let them watch the 18 movies, the 15 movies. And I had a friend like that. And so I got introduced at around 11, 12 years old to Arnold Schwarzenegger movies, Predator, Terminator and stuff like that. And I saw these action heroes, because this was in the late 80s, well, it would be mid 90s, but they were filmed in the late 80s and 90s, weren't they? And these guys, they're all muscle bound, meatheads, and all the young lads really liked them. And I just saw them, and they weren't scared of anything. They got the bad guys, they rescued the damsel in distress. And I thought to myself, I want to be like them, because they're not scared of anything and they can do good with their strength, and they're basically heroes and everyone thinks they're great. So that's how I started. And I started doing push-ups, sit-ups, burpees and stuff like that in my room. And then later on, my parents, for my 14th birthday, got me a multi-gym. Awesome. So I had a multi-gym with elastic bands. Because
elastic band. We talked about multi-gyms before.
Old school one.
This sounds even more old school than that. I want to know more now. So how do you get elastic bands on it?
Right, so it basically, it was very clever actually, because elastic bands have come back in the gym. It's these aren't new. and actually people are using them to make things easier sometimes, where actually these elastic bands were harder. And I'm not talking about elastic bands with twang. They were thick rubber bands. And it had a pec deck on it, so the attachment was it was York. It was a flat bench. It had a bench press, so a bar, a continuous bar, went over your head and you held onto there and pressed up, and it was on a pivot behind you, and you could change the settings of the elastic band, so it was under more tension, so it would obviously get heavier the more tension it was under.
I'm going to assume it was the further away you pulled it,
yes.
Okay.
So the higher the resistance, because obviously
what year was this? Because
I was 14, so this would have been 98.
98. Wow.
1998.
Wow.
98 or 99, and it had a pec deck on it. Fantastic. And I had the classic scissor pec deck thing. You guys probably know what it's called. I'm showing my age here. You guys are young. So basically you had a piece of metal that was like a scissor, and it had springs at the top you had to press together to work your pec. And then you could swap it around, so you're actually pulling back, so you're doing a bit of your rear delts and traps, and maybe a little bit of lats. So basically, I got that because my parents didn't really know what to do with it. They were academics, and they were like, we've got this wild child that is obsessed with running around and fighting with his friends. Only play fighting and stuff, but very active. And then at 15 years old, my parents again, they're kind of like, I don't know what to do with this child. So they lied about my age and got me in. They bought me a gym membership for a year at the Max Fitness Centre in Walkley. So
Max Fitness?
Yes. It's still going.
Is it really?
It's still running with a lot of the same kit.
I've never heard of Max Fitness in Sheffield.
No, it's very old school. It's in an old school. It had little spin lock bars.
Yeah.
So basically what you buy from Argos. It had as a gym. And you know what? It worked. It was a nice gym, nice little community.
Yeah.
It wasn't very big. But that's where I started training. That's where I started to get quite strong, actually.
I was going to say, did you notice quite early on that you were stronger than most people in there? You could lift more than the guys your age?
Yes.
Because, I mean, when I was younger, we all played football. We'd go to the gym as a bit of a recreational thing. And it was a bit more of a mess about when we first started going. But I definitely wasn't stronger than anyone else, and I knew that. And I knew there was some lads who were just naturally stronger than me, but I wanted to be better than them, so I would go more to try and beat them. But I knew that I wasn't naturally strong. Whereas I know that anyone who goes into strongman will know straight away. As soon as you start bench pressing, okay, I can do double what everyone else is doing. I can do what the guys who's 10 years above me is doing. How was that feeling, like when you knew, okay, I'm actually really good at this?
Well, it's where you start to when you get something like that, because I think it is all. I mean, my parents, my father's 5'8", my mother's 5'5", my sister's 5'2". I'm 6'3". I don't know where I got it from, but I was so active as a child. I was, when you were as a kid, you'd have a sitting car and you'd take turns and pushing each other. I wasn't bothered about driving. I just wanted to push them as fast as they could.
The car off and
I just grew up and bigger. But I was always the one that was wanted to push them to see if I can get them fast enough to skid round corners or even crash. So
awesome. Yeah.
I think it was just in my mentality, and obviously, as you're being physical, younger with strenuous stuff, it obviously has an effect on your bones. I know there is a genetical thing in it, but I always say it's much easier to get muscle when you're older if you've had a foundation of muscle as a child. And I'm not saying they should go and bench press at 10 years old and stuff like that, but active climbing trees, pull-ups of trees and stuff like that's what I used to do. Because I think it sets you up later on in life for having more of a bone structure and tendon structure to be able to put larger muscles on, because obviously we know the muscles will grow, but they're limited by bone and tendon. So you can only get to a certain size, obviously naturally.
There's won't go into science here. There's actually a research to suggest that there's receptors in the muscle now. So and these start from when you are very young, and this is why people like. A great example is Kevin Leroney, the bodybuilder. Do you know him? Okay, he was a 90s bodybuilder, awesome physique, one of the best in the world, and he stopped when he was like 35, 40, and then when he was like 50. He went to go and put muscle on, and I can't tell you how he changed from this really small bloke who just not trained for years to now being huge. And it was just because he had those receptors in the muscle, and as soon as he obviously started taking gear and training really hard, his body just blew back up to where he was before, because it was that foundation of strength and muscle, and the body knew how to grow muscle to that degree. This is why it's so. I mean, if we all stop training now for the next year, we'd find it really easy in those first few months afterwards to get back to where we are because of those receptors, because of that physical strength we've had before. And you're absolutely right, that starts from when you're a kid.
I think it's I always say this as well, it's because people get annoyed because I've not deadlifted for 3 months and I go and pull a 280 or something. People say, that's not fair. No, I put the foundation in. I put the foundation in. But I say it's like when you blow up a balloon, everyone's blown up a balloon for a party. The first time you blow it, it's hard. The first time you get the muscle, it's really hard to blow up. But then you let the air out, like you stop training for a bit. How much easier is it to blow the balloon up? Because it's ready to go. So that's an analogy. I don't know if
I think it's great that it's so poignant from when you're younger to get kids into exercise, and for parents as well to really push physical activities on kids, because kids are just inherently lazy. Like, so they just want to sit around and play games. And I had bouts of that when I was a kid, but I always had this background thing where I loved sport and I loved exercise and I loved movement. And it was always my dad pushing me, saying, "Go on, get off your ass. You've been sat in front of that Xbox all day. Let's go and play some football, or let's go and do something now." And was that being pushed by your parents, or was it more you really kind of like driving that?
No, I was a weird child.
How so?
I was just overly. I couldn't really stand school. I was always a little kid at school. I didn't mind school. I had friends at school and stuff. But at the young age, I was always the one talking, nattering. I just lost interest. It's not that I was naughty. I just lost interest in stuff because I wanted to be running around outside. So I had the urge, should I say, to go out and do physical stuff. I just found it more stimulating. And I wasn't very academic and stuff, so no one enjoys doing stuff that they're not very good at, especially as a child. So you do what you had to do, and then you could, once you'd done what you had to do, you could go and do what you actually wanted to do.
Brilliant. So how did that then progress into like competing? At what point did you go, okay, I'm going to start entering some strongman competitions now?
So I remember I had a friend actually. I had a friend. So fast forward to about 19, 20 years old, and I was a bouncer at the Leadmill nightclub, and I had a friend who was big and strong, and he had some strongman kit. So he made it himself, or he'd got a friend to make it. So basically, we're talking about gas canisters with handles welded onto it, a super yoke made out of scaffolding poles, an axle bar which was a scaffolding pole, and we used to go and train because he said to me, "Phil, you're quite strong, aren't you?" Because I did all the gym stuff. How about you want to come and try some strongman stuff? And I was like, I've seen it on TV, I've seen it at Christmas and stuff, so. Yeah, why not? I always wanted to do something else that challenged me. So we would go up to Stocksbridge. His mum worked at this school. So rain or shine, like snow or anything, we were on this yard every Saturday morning. And back then, now strongman's trendy. It's cool to be a strongman. Well, ish. You walk around in shorts and Doc Martens and stuff. That's not. I don't know that fashion. Yeah, but anyway. Back then, we were weirdos. We were like weirdos because we're going back to if I was 21, so we're going back to 2005, 2006. So it was just a freak show on TV still then. No gyms really did anything. There was no logs to lift in gyms. There wasn't any super yokes and stuff like that. Gyms just didn't recognise it as a sport back then. So you had to do your own thing, and I just trained doing that. Fell in love with it and thought, actually, I'm getting stronger here because it benefits both the gym strength and that. But I never really thought I could take it anywhere, so I kind of left it. I just did it as fun for about 4 or 5 years, and then in 2011, my friend who I talked about, who got me into it, put on a show in Stocksbridge. It was a fun fair thing, and he thought, I'll just put it on as a bit of a entertainment for these. It's like a summer fair, that you get at local communities. And he put on a competition, and obviously I got to train with all the kit and stuff, and I knew what the weights were and everything. I smashed it. I came first, so I won, and I was like, "Hang about,
that sounds
I'm
cool.
good at this." And everyone goes, "Well done! How strong you are!" And then all of a sudden you're like, "Oh, right,
Chest puffed out now, walking around school."
Yeah. It's like, this is my identity. This is my calling. This is what I want to do. So then I spent next couple of years rising up the ranks, because obviously as strongman there is novice, intermediate, like county level, national level, and then international level. So after that I did a novice competition, won that, went into the intermediate competition, won that.
Wow.
I remember this is 2012, 2013, so it wasn't as well followed as it is now. So I probably wouldn't have got away with winning the intermediate at that level, but it's because it was so rare. And it was starting to grow. It was really starting to grow. This is when they still did Britain's Strongest Man in Barnsley Metrodome.
Yeah.
Did they?
So they had a maximum of like 1,500 people come to watch. Now it's like 10,000 people go watch it. So you see how it's just exponentially grown over the last few years. But I was in the early days. Not early days, but if
early
it was
enough to be, in Blockbuster car park or something like that.
Yeah. If it was the history of Britain, I was in the Dark Ages stage of it. I wasn't the Roman side of it, but I was the Dark Ages, just before medieval.
Like some of the weights, I'm sure.
Yeah. And then I started to compete against guys I'd seen on TV. After I got to the intermediate, so you go to the county level, and some of the lower guys on like UK Strongest Man, Britain's Strongest Man, they do that, and obviously they smash me. And I used to walk to these competitions and look at these guys and go, what's the point of me being here? I'm tiny, they're huge, they've been on TV, I have no idea. I can't do this. But I fell in love with the sport. I was in love with the sport, so I just wanted to carry on doing it. And then eventually, so what happened is I was here and they were there, and then for one event, I beat someone who'd been on TV. And then you start believing in yourself a little bit more. It's like, if I can beat someone who's been on TV before, how far can I take this? So then, I was in the police at the time. I competed at England's Strongest Man first time in 2014. I think I came 9th.
Yeah.
But that's why I was still in the police. I had full-time job and did lots of hours, and I drank lots as well. Lots of police. And then
so that was your career on the side. So you were in the police while you were doing the strongman stuff.
Yeah, the strongman was just a hobby and fun. And then I thought, no, I hate being a police officer. It's a very hard job and it's a very thankless task. So I ended up quitting that and then basically opening my own gym. Because I split up with my fiance at the time. We had a house together, and so I sold it, and I just went all in. I was like, all or nothing. Yeah. Okay, go big or go home.
Yeah. Brilliant. And this was titanium as well.
That was titanium strength gym.
Yeah.
So I opened that. So I spent a year opening that, and then after that, I got so 2015. I spent it opening the gym and concentrating on that, but carried on training, but. It was kind of like, you start with 70 members, you're like, oof, right, need a few more members here. So I spent a year basically back at my parents' house in a single bed in the attic on £80 a week because I was reinvesting everything.
Yeah.
So life was tough, and the only thing I had was training. And then the next year after that, I came 3rd at England's Strongest Man, which means in 2016 I got to go to UK Strongest Man, which was my first TV appearance.
Wow.
So, and I made it to the final. So it's 16 competitors. It's a 3-day knockout. So you start with 16, you lose 4 on the first day, 4 on the second day, 8 make it to the final.
Okay.
I ripped my bicep on the first event in the final. Okay, so it was a minor tear, but it was like enough for the doctors to say, the physios to say, I recommend if you want a career in this, you stop there because you've done some damage and it could make it worse.
Yeah. How old were you at this point when you were in the finals?
In the finals, I was 30.
30.
30 in 2016. 31 that year.
I'm just trying to grasp kind of where everything was in your life at that point. It's pretty wild. So you had your gym.
Yes.
You'd quit the police.
Yes.
You were doing really well in your strongman. You were now at Britain's Strongest Man.
UK's that one.
UK Strongest Man.
There's 2 different leagues, yeah.
Is it really? Is it 2 different?
There's 2 different companies.
Right, okay.
So you've got Ultimate... Actually, there's 3 different companies. There's Ultimate Strongman.
Yep.
And then there is Giants Live.
Yes, that's Britain's Strongest Man.
That's Britain's Strongest Man, which it's just a name, basically. They just want to copy each other's names, don't they? Ultimate Strongman's a bit more open because you can qualify for that. Britain's Strongest Man is they handpick people. So you could be good enough, but they don't pick you, so you don't get to go in it.
Yeah.
So it's a bit fairer.
And the UK Strongest Man is the third one.
That's the Ultimate Strongman.
Is it?
But then the Strongman Champions League, that's the international one. So that's the one I competed in.
Wow,
so
nice.
I never competed in the World's Strongest Man because every time I got to a qualifier or anything, I've either messed it up or tore a bicep or something. So so I did compete all around the world against the guys who were in the World's Strongest Man.
Just on a different event.
But it was in a different league.
Yeah.
So there's 3 different leagues.
Amazing. Just shows you how much luck's involved as well with not picking up injuries and, like any sport, like, football, for example, to get to the top level and not have career-ending injuries or pick up niggles that just get out of control. It's amazing. You've got to be really lucky to a certain degree, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, you can reduce your chance of injury and stuff like that, but you have no idea. I mean, you could say that the same about anything, couldn't you? You could walk out there and someone could mount the curb and knock you over. You're lucky just to be alive sometimes.
But I mean, just grasping your life at that point, you had so many highs. Like, you've got your own gym now, that must be really exciting. You're now going to UK Strongest Man, but you're also on the side of that living with your mum and dad in the spare bedroom by the sounds of things.
Yeah.
So it's a real like juxtaposition of like how your life was going, I guess. And
chaotic. Yeah,
chaotic. Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. So, but that is, and I think that's everyone's life is chaotic to a certain extent, isn't it? Because you can say my career is fantastic, I'm earning loads of money, but then my home life is suffering, or my relationship with my parents, my relationship with my siblings, or my relationship with my children is suffering, or they could be doing really well, and then your health is really bad. So there's so many different things in life, and I think it's all loads of different pockets, and if you get all of them going right at the same time, I'd love to meet that person. Yeah, I'd love to meet that person. I don't think they exist. Otherwise, there'd be no ambition, because people always want to better themselves and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. We've spoken about it before, like even just having a family in the mix there, and sometimes the same thing. Like, work will be going great, family life's great, career's going good, and then you come home and it's a bomb site, and you're living in you still realise I'm living in an absolute squatter here. Like, the house is a tip, and it's very hard to spin all the plates and keep everything going at the same time. Something somewhere is going to have to give some weeks, and you can't have everything performing optimally every week, and it's just it's the nature of living and existing, isn't it? Essentially.
I think that you hit the nail on the head. If you expect perfection in every area of life, you're like chasing after the wind. There is no chance you can do that, because you can't control everything. What's it? Someone wise said to me, they said, life is about 10% of what it throws at you, but 90% of how you deal with what's been thrown at you. So it's your attitude, and how do you take that? So you go, you know what? I'm thankful for this bit, thankful for this bit, thankful for this bit, but this bit's not so good, but I've got so much to be thankful for. I don't mind. I'm going to see if I can try and improve it, but you can't have it all.
No, agreed. Absolutely.
No wrap up.
So the timeline then. So we've got to Britain's strongest, UK strongest man. You tore your bicep. How long was that?
So that was only mine. So there's a bit missing out on the bicep there. So part of the tendon peeled off, it looks like.
How did you? What event was that? You did that?
Tire flip. Tire flip. So it's like 400 kilo tires. Yeah.
Jesus.
You said that so flippantly.
Well, the thing is, at the time, it's just what you did. And I don't say it to like boast or anything. It's just that was the standard you had to be at.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Everyone could flip it. My bicep just didn't take it.
Same like deadlifting nowadays. Like a 400 kilo deadlift is like your standard entry level. Like if you want to. Whereas back in the day, I'm sure like
300 kilo was the 400 kilo. Yes, it was.
I remember like when someone did. Who was it? It was the I can't remember now. Was it? The guy who. Was it from Manchester who deadlifted
Leeds? Andy Bolton.
That's right.
£1,000.
£1,000. Wow. 400 kilos.
456 kilo.
Yeah, the first close to £1,000, and that was like landmark. And everyone was like, "No one will ever beat that." And I remember when I've obviously watched Eddie Hall a few times, and when he was
Thor as well.
And people were telling Eddie that you'll never. The body can't physically take. Other strongmen were telling me the body can't physically take a 500 kilo deadlift. It's just not possible. I think you'll die basically if you try it and attempt it. And I think he almost did a couple of times. But that's like the standard now. Like, so there was quite a few guys who've done it. I mean, there's some sketchiness about whether it's conventional or SEMA or there's all that kind of business in the industry. But once the standard's been set, it's like everyone around them goes, "That's possible now. Let's do it."
Well, that's what happened with what is it, the 7-minute mile or
Roger Bannister,
4 minute mile. I'm not a runner, but everything is impossible until someone actually does it.
Absolutely.
Then the floodgates open. Because everyone realised
and now you've got high school kids who can run like 4-minute miles.
But what the exciting thing is, the most impressive people I find are the ones that are the ones who do the impossible. Because everyone's saying you can't do
They're
do
the
this.
pioneers.
Yeah, but they ignore that and they just go ahead. So their character, their resilience is incredible.
Agreed.
Yeah, it's almost like delusion to a degree as well, because if everything around you is saying not just what people are saying, but facts. Like this has never been done before. I think there's an element of delusion where you think, no, I can do this. Like, why not? And if you don't believe it, nobody else is going to believe it for you.
Yeah.
So
I totally agree with that. I think delusion is such a big part of achievement. Like it's this delusional pursuit of something that you actually have no idea if it's going to work a lot of the time. And a lot of the time never works. You pursue things in life that you just either are passionate about, you have a little dream about, or you just really want to work hard at, and you think it's your purpose in life. And it doesn't matter sometimes whether you do succeed or not, because I think purpose is so important. And Strongman was obviously that for you as a kid. It gave you that purpose from a young age of being like, I'm good at something, I know I can achieve something at it, let's just go for it, let's give it 100%.
Yes. Yeah.
It was that delusion of like, let's just don't go for it, see what happens.
Yeah, and it's character as well, because obviously a lot of people see failure when you fail, not if you fail, when you fail in something. Some people take it as a knock against their character.
Yeah.
Bam, that hurts, that's knocked my confidence, that's knocked me down. Or other people, and people mix in between as well, different areas, so everyone's a bit of that and everyone's a bit of that, but generally speaking, the ones who achieve more trying to strive for their goals are the ones that see failure as, right, I know what not to do now. That's one thing I can tick off, like your list at the beginning. You can tick off the list, right, I've tried that, it doesn't work, let's go to the next one. Right, if that doesn't work, how many times can you get knocked down before you give up? So I'd like to think I'm on the character side of things, that I see failure as a lesson, because I believe there's good in everything that happens. You just have to search harder in certain situations. And if you can find the lesson in there, it builds your character, because your character is the only thing you're taking forward, isn't it? Your experience, your wisdom and your knowledge is the only thing you're taking forward. And if you've failed lots and lots and lots of times, then you know what not to do. Whereas if you don't try, then you're kind of stuck, because you'll never, because you don't want to fail, you'll never try, because you see it as something against your character. And that's what keeps people stagnant. That's where people go, oh, I can't wait to retirement, I've only got 18 years left. That's what it was like in the police sometimes. They're like, you can't leave because you've got a great pension. And I used to say, I can leave because I hate this job and I want to do something else. But a lot of people, even though miserable, because they're scared of failure, they're scared of not achieving, they're scared of that knock on their personality. And sometimes it's pride. It's saying, well, I don't want to be known as someone who's failed. Right, well, enjoy where you're sat, because you're not going anywhere.
Phil's got a great quote about water. You mentioned like stagnation.
Yes,
if I can prize that out of you, Phil, that'd be amazing.
So, water. Obviously, what happens when water pools and stops moving?
Stagnant.
What happens? You get bacteria, it becomes poisonous. Would you drink out of stagnant water?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. If it is flowing, if it is always moving, could you drink that?
For sure, yeah.
Fresh. So then that's what I believe. I take that aspect in life. I take that aspect in business. If you're moving forward, even at a really slow rate, as long as you're moving forward in something, it brings life to stuff. Because if you become stagnant, that's when you get bitter. Because the poisons grow, the bacteria grows in you, because you're not moving forward or even trying to move forward. Your life doesn't change, and you're stuck where you are. But you're getting older, you're missing opportunities, you're seeing other people achieving their goals, and you're like, well, why is this not happening to me? Why this? I deserve this. I deserve. No, you're not moving forward. So you've got to learn to fail in order to succeed. Does that make sense?
There's a great American businessman called Patrick Bet-David, and he has a great phrase where he says, if you're stagnant and you're standing still and you're not moving forward, you're actually moving backwards. And this is such an important lesson. He's obviously talking about them from a business point of view, always kind of trying to improve and develop and grow and expand. But I think that's so important in life as well, in everything that we do. And that really rings true in your training and what you've done since you were a kid, where being in the sport you're in, there's going to be so many setbacks. There's going to be moments where you fail at competitions, you don't do your best, you pick up injuries a lot more than most other sports. Those things can cripple you, and we're going to talk about a little bit about your history with kind of injuries and things. But there's going to be small things along the way that you pick up, and if you've not got a strong sense of character and you don't understand, and you're not in it for the long game, they're really going to eat away at you, and they're going to pull you back, and you're going to become very stagnant, when actually you've got to flow with it, you've got to run with it and go, this is just a small setback, we'll learn from this. Why did this happen? What can we do to prevent this happening again? And that part of training is so important, I think, for longevity. And us guys who've been training now for God knows what combined years, must be talking 40, 50 years maybe combined between us. Like, this is about longevity, and we understand our own bodies, and the longer you train, the more you understand and the more you learn about yourself and what your body's capabilities and limitations are.
And I think the training aspect is very much you can take training as almost a philosophy for life, because like you said, like what I said before, is like, how do you take that failure, how do you take that injury? I've had my biceps torn off, my pecs torn off, I've broken my legs severely, so I've got scars all over the place. Taught me. I used it as a lesson. Yes, it's horrible going through the storm, but after the storm, you're a much better sailor, because you've learned to cope with that storm and you didn't sink. So you actually, what do people say? Would you get in a boat in stormy water with someone who's never sailed before?
No.
Would you go in with someone who's never been in a storm before?
Probably not. Depends how we're going to say it.
But how would you know if they've not been through a storm? So I surround myself and people. I like having people who have been through storms, who have been. And I'm not talking about anything in specific, but just some adversity in life where they've gone through. Because everyone goes through really tough times, and maybe some people listening are going through a tough time right now. But no storm lasts forever, and you get out the other side, and you can either go, I'm really bitter and angry and sad that that's happened. You don't get anywhere. Whereas you look back, obviously you just get through the storm. That's the important thing of it. You just get through the storm. And then once you're through it the other side, you go, right, your time to reflection. I got through that. I managed to get through that. So what have I learned from that? And you can take it with you to build your character massively, or you can get bitter about that you've been through a storm, but get over it, because everyone goes through storms.
And I think that actually how your mindset going through that storm and that situation that you're in is really important. It can dictate, number one, how quickly you get out of the storm, and number two, how much better you rebound after it. Because if you get into this really negative mindset of why is this happening to me, like in your sport, same thing, you could pick up injuries a lot more frequent than the people and be like, why is this happening to me? Why am I getting injured? And you become very negative in your self-talk. And I think a big part of working your way out of quite difficult storms in your own personal life is that really positive internal voice being like, I need to get through this, and I'm going to come out this better person. That's so important, I think.
Agreed, completely.
For sure. So let's fast forward then to 2017.
2017.
Arguably the height of your, I guess, your career in strongman.
I guess so. So I won England's Strongest Man, and that was the year that Eddie Hall won World's Strongest Man. So I'm not by any means saying that I am stronger than Eddie Hall. He was just busy doing World's Strongest Man, so I snuck in the back door. I'm like one of those wolves on the edge of the pack that kind of just sneaks in. But I won that. I won that competition, so I can say that I've won England's Strongest Man. And then the year after that, I came second in UK Strongest Man. I was beat by Paro Dwyer by 1 point. Wow! So it was very close, right to the end. Paro Dwyer, the funny guy on Instagram.
He does some funny videos.
Yes, he does. Yeah, some
controversial videos. But he's a character.
But and then obviously when I won England's Strongest Man, that opened the door for the Strongman Champions League. So that's when I got to tour around the world. I've been to Serbia, Finland, Greece. That's where I tore my bicep off. Abu Dhabi, Romania. I got stuck there for 2 days. That was a strange situation. So I've had a lot of experience in doing what I loved. And I
on the international scale as well.
On the international scale, I was competing against guys who were at World's Strongest Man, and sometimes I'd beat them. I did World Team Games as well. I want to know who's the most impressive strongman that you've come across. The guy where you just thought, this guy's unbelievable and a world beater.
the most impressive person for you? Might not even have been on a physical scale, might have been a mental thing that you saw in someone. So who was the most impressive guy you came across?
At the time I was competing, it would have been Eddie Hall.
Really?
Yeah, but because it doesn't necessarily mean he was a bit of a drama queen in the competitions, but he got the job done. It was so impressive because he said he was set out to go and do something, and he got there and did it. So and he did the same for the 500 kilo deadlift. He did it for the world's strongest man.
Once he sets his mind to something, that's it. He's on a mission.
Yeah, he was so focused. He took it so seriously. All the rest of us, we were having a laugh, and he was there like by himself with his physio, with a fan on him and stuff like that. We were just having a laugh.
It's fascinating though, because in his videos where he is now in his career, he comes across as very like light-hearted and not very serious. Yeah, very joking.
Not when he was doing. He switched it on when he was doing Strongman.
I've following Strongman for a long time. And I remember watching, because Eddie Hall was doing some YouTube videos quite early on in his career. It was even before he's got to the levels he's at now on YouTube. And I remember one video where I think he was preparing for World's Strongest Man, and he had some real serious issues with his heart, and he was going to see special cardiologists and getting ECGs. And even just the level of focus I saw in his eyes, and just to be able to, because number one, he wanted to get to a certain weight. I think he wanted to get to like
200 kilo, I think it was.
Basically, yeah. He wanted to try and break the 200. And he's tall, he's 6'3", isn't he? But
no.
Is he not?
No.
Is he not 6'3"? No. It's all coming out now. It's all coming out. Apparently he's 6'3".
6'1".
Is he? Okay.
Yeah.
6'1", okay.
He's still a big guy, yeah.
I thought he was. I'm sure.
It's like, honestly, strongman's like wrestling. It's like, I'm weighing in at 5 million pounds. No, not.
But I mean, he's wide enough, so you can probably get away with it.
Oh, he was so much bigger than all of us, but width-wise.
Yeah, but even then, like, he was taking his recovery and his health so seriously.
Yes.
Actually, he did a more, I say recent, it was a good few years ago now, but he did a walk around of the gym in his house. And the level of detail he went to in terms of his recovery, like he's got, I think, about
oxygen thing.
He's got hyperbaric chambers. He's got. We mentioned this, I think, on the podcast a few weeks ago, but he's set up, I think, about 500 grand, I think, for all his recovery kit, and just for someone to be taking it that seriously at that level. But back then as well, when Strongman it was big, but it wasn't like no one was, people were still eating cheeseburgers and Five Guys pre-show, I'm sure.
McDonald's more.
McDonald's, maybe,
I couldn't afford Five Guys.
Maybe, yeah.
I think that's what I'm really curious about as well, like the level of, I suppose, food that you've got to get in your body to compete. Like, I can't get my head around that. What did that look like for you?
That was one of the toughest things. So in 2019, I got up to 24.5 stone, so 152 kilo.
Wow.
So bear in mind, I'm 19 stone now around, I think. So another 6.5 stone on that. That's like 5.5 stone on top of that. And that was muscle. I was eating 9,000 calories a day most days.
Jesus.
It was unpleasant. It was really unpleasant.
Yeah. The levels you have to go to at that.
Yeah, but everyone else
extreme.
Is. So you have to.
Of course.
You realise
that
if you want to be the top, you've got to. And that was one of the hardest things. Just feeling sick all the time. Go to the toilet all the time.
Because you're so full.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just the stress on the body as well, like the digestive system.
Yes. Yeah.
The kind of the heart and. We've spoke about kind of the PEDs and things like that of all the kind of guys take, which is a bit of a, it's a taboo subject, I think, in that sport. And I still get people asking me, and the flabbergasted that strongmen take steroids and gear, because I guess the thing is with strongmen is there's so much body fat that you don't necessarily see the real rip.
Until you put them next to a normal person. But next thing you'll be telling me there's drugs in the Olympics.
Potentially.
I mean, it's breaking news. It's not breaking news anymore, is it? I mean, there's so many. Look at what's that? What was that documentary about the Sochi Olympics? It was
it's not Lazarus. No, it's not Lazarus. Is it?
Icarus. Great documentary. Yeah, and then that broke open the whole kind of floodgates for the fact that Olympics is completely.
Whenever you push humans to the extreme, there will be people that want to do the best, so they're almost. Everyone's got a choice.
Wherever there's competition, there's going to be that. Wherever there's money,
got to be more prepared. You've got to be prepared to do more than the next person if you want to be the best.
100%.
Yeah, because they're starting to do the enhanced games now, aren't they? Have you seen this?
I've heard about this. Yeah, so they're going to do a games where basically you're allowed to take whatever you want, free for all
Sanctioned. It's like, look, take whatever you want and enter at your own risk. And
I really like the idea.
Everyone knows.
Yeah.
I like the idea.
I don't like the idea of how many people are going to die for it.
Do you know what? That's the downside, I suppose. But look, if we can see someone run 100 metres in 6 seconds, I don't know if that's a price willing to pay. You know what I mean? I'm like, is this all right?
There'll always be like a bit of a taint on the games, but end of the day, like, you know, people are doing it. I mean, how many sprinters have been popped for stuff? I think it's not a game of who's on it; it's a game of who's getting caught. From what I gather,
it seems to be. But anyway, your normal average Joe sometimes takes it.
True. Absolutely.
Some people, he's like, oh, I had no idea you're on it.
Yeah.
I think there's that balance between performance and aesthetics as well. Like Ryan said, if there's money on the table and it's your career and it's not only your passion compared to just how you look or just for a bit of vanity, I think there's a line to walk there that's quite tough to talk about as well. Like, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
In today's world as well, like just fame, like just being famous on social media, people are willing to go some pretty ungodly levels when it comes to you know, actually pushing their bodies and doing some pretty sketchy stuff. So
yeah. I mean, have you got any advice, like looking back now, is there any advice that you'd give to strongman era Phil that, do you think he'd listen?
No, he wouldn't listen.
No.
He wouldn't listen.
Too focused, too much on a mission.
I thought I knew best. And it's generally with younger people, until you experience that you're wrong, you have to learn for yourself. Yeah. You have to make the mistakes yourself. You have to do the failures yourself in order to learn. So people can tell you it's like kids.
Yeah.
It's like, don't touch that, it's hot. Bang, hot. Okay, now they won't touch it again, but not because you told them, because they learned by themselves. And if we think we're more sophisticated than children, we're not. We learn the same way. It's just more complex situations. Yeah. As teenagers go, make sure you wear your helmet with your bike. They come back with a cracked head open. It's like, ugh. And then as you get older, your parents say, don't speed in your car when you learn to drive. Next thing you know, Jack comes home and he's, Dad, I've written car off. So,
or you've got 3 points on your license.
Yeah, you've got 3 points on your license. And it's just, if we think that...
It's funny, every single thing you've mentioned there, I've done. I got 3 points within like 2 weeks of passing out.
I crashed within 3 weeks. I thought I was Colin McRae.
But my mum always say the same thing. Like, Ryan is the kind of guy who, it doesn't matter how many times you tell him, he has to do it, touch it, make the mistake, and then he'll learn from it. And I've been like that my whole life. Like, whether it's in business, whether it's with my body and my training, whether it's with like relationships, I've had to make the worst mistakes to then come out the back end and be like, I know now what's right and what's wrong and why it doesn't work. Just someone telling me it doesn't work. No. Some people it does actually. Some people you can say to them, don't do that, and they will be like, okay, I get it. I see the logic there. I'm not going to do that. I'm not that person.
But then are they not going to be quite a fearful person growing up? That's always my concern. Like Ted, he'll push the boundaries. He's currently trying to jump off the 3rd step on the stairs, and this week he's tried to do the 4th step, and it's not ended very well. So we're like, well, you'll learn. Yeah, eventually you'll be big enough when you can, but keep testing.
When does this end, by the way?
I don't know.
I don't know. I was going to break his neck. I'll be careful,
I did the full lot when I was 10, so I'm just saying.
Did you really?
We know where he gets it from.
That's what I'm concerned about.
I guess as a parent, it's just damage limitation.
Of course. I've never had the urge to jump off the top step.
No, incrementally. It's like progressive overload, isn't it? As you go in further up.
So let's go obviously to year after 2017 and 2018. You go to Britain's Strongest Man. Is that right, at the arena?
2019.
2019 was it?
So I did a year, about 2 years of touring all around the world and doing that. And did another UK Strongest Man.
Awesome.
And then 2019 did Britain's Strongest Man. That's my second time at Britain's Strongest Man. I was already having a bad competition. I'd gone too heavy. I'd gone to 24.5 stone. Wow. My lungs and heart hadn't caught up with me, so I was very unfit. I was strong, but unfit. And then it was the last event, and the stones, and I was in the bottom 2. So I just wanted it to be over. I wanted the nightmare to be over.
Right. So you have a bad competition. Yeah, it was just like
bad competition. I just want to get to the end and just basically go and get drunk with my friends. And then as I got to the 4th Atlas stone, so 100 kilo went up, 120 went up, 140 went up, 160 kilo went up, missed the platform, bang, landed on my leg, shattered my leg. So from 5 foot, it landed. My leg was wedged because. So I'll try and. How do I describe it? This is my tibia and fibula. So this is my lower leg. That is the brace of the wall where the stone came tumbling down. My foot was wedged here. So obviously the force of the ball usually knock your leg out of the way, but it had nowhere to go, so it went crack like that. And that bit of my leg hit the floor.
So essentially what happened was your shin bone, your tibia and fibula, complete compound fracture.
Not compound, weird.
Oh, really?
I got rhino skin. Yeah.
Wow.
Ah, wow.
Yeah.
So it didn't break the skin?
No, it didn't break the
That's
skin.
fascinating. 'Cause I've seen images of the graft on your leg. And I would have
That's a different story. That was the complication afterwards, because basically I had some. They reckon because I had some knee sleeves around my shins, that probably stopped or helped
bone breaking through.
Yeah, stopped it breaking through. So I was very, very lucky in that aspect, but not so much because later on, so 36 hours later, go in for this operation to say, right, we're going to fix your leg. And I came out of the surgery.
Wow, so it was 36 hours after you'd done the injury. So you were sat there with a broken shin bone.
Yeah. And they put it in a cast. They straighten it up because it was obviously all wonky. Yeah. They straighten it all up and put you in a cast.
What kind of medication were you on? Like
Morphine.
The whole
It's like you're like, why is everyone getting stressed? I'm fine.
I'll walk out of here.
I can imagine the levels of morphine you're on at 24 stone as well.
Oh, God, yeah.
Usually what we give a horse, but we'll give it Phil.
But so basically, I spoke to a consultant. He said, right, we're going to stick a rod down your shin bone, fix it up, send you off, sort of like after a couple of days. Came back out of the surgery, woke up, looked down at my leg. They sliced my leg open, both sides of the shin bone. So there's massive gaping hole, and there's some scaffolding pole. So there's basically mini scaffolding poles, 2 sticking out the top of the shin bone and 2 sticking out the bottom of the shin bone, tied by through 2 metal rods. And I woke up and I was like, this is not a rod in my shin, and sending me home. And obviously the consultant came up to me and said, look, there were some complications. Actually, you had what's called compartment syndrome, and compartment syndrome is basically your muscles in a sack. And if the swelling has nowhere to go, so if I had a compound fracture, it would have broken the sack, pressure released.
Yeah.
But what had happened, it had swollen so much in the sack, and the sack hadn't burst. So what it's done,
The fascia basically around the...
yeah. What it was doing, it was strangling the artery to my foot.
Ooh.
So my foot was not getting any blood supply.
Whoa.
So he said, look, the next 2 weeks, they had a pump in it as well to try and release the pressure. So they sliced it open. Like if someone gets a brain injury, they take part of the skull out, don't they, to relieve the pressure. They did that for the muscle. And so it's left a very, very big scar because I had to have a skin graft. So what he said to me for the next 2 weeks, he says, we're going to try and save your leg. I was like, what?
Wow, so there was a potential that the leg could have gone.
Yes. They said if it had been another 12 to 24 hours, you'd probably lost your foot at least.
Wow. Is that because the circulation just wasn't getting to the foot?
Yeah.
Oh,
and because I was on so much morphine, I couldn't really tell that much.
Yeah.
So because they said you should have been in excruciating pain, I was like, I was in pain, but I was getting through it.
I mean, that's just the mindset of a strongman as well, isn't it? Like pain is just something you're so used to. You're used to pain.
Because when you're gripping onto 160 kilo in each hand, it hurts. It literally hurts. So you get used to, and obviously the mindset is pain, weakness leaving the body. Yeah. You know that lame. I don't believe that anymore, by the way. But you have that kind of pride that says, don't show that anything bothers you. So 2 weeks came and went, and luckily they said, right, we've had a great, it's healed really well. They sewed up one side and then skin grafted the other side. That's the big wound that you can see. So they put a Lizaroff frame on, a cage on the outside. So a Lizaroff frame is an external cage that's basically fixed, and it it pins into your leg. I had some
I've seen them. It's
24 pins into the leg holding it together because I was so heavy. They had to have 6 rings. Usually they'd have 3. They had 6 rings to support my mass.
That's a cool brag, that.
I needed a big one. Yeah. And they usually use titanium because it's lighter, but they had to use stainless steel for me.
Wow.
They wanted the heavy duty stuff.
Jesus.
It's amazing.
I mean, to support the weight you were at, that was...
I quickly lost it, trust me.
I bet,
lost about 3 stone in 2 weeks.
Wow.
Really? Wow.
Because you're just bedbound.
I guess you're not eating, obviously not on PEDs and not training, so it's...
You're just bedbound,
So what happens after that? Obviously, I know you mentioned to me you went back the year after and competed in Strongman again. So the recovery obviously went pretty well. How long before you were back training after the injury?
So I was training as soon as I got, because I had the gym, didn't I? So I wanted to lead by example. So I had that mindset of, right, I have to come back now because everyone's written me off. And if I let myself think that I've been written off, then what do I do? I didn't know what else to do, so I just had to say I will be back, and I said that quite publicly. Said I will be back. So obviously I do that quite a bit. I say something, and then I feel like you have to fulfil that, so it puts pressure on you. And so 18 months later, I came back and came 5th in UK Strongest Man. So
what a comeback that is.
Well, and
do you think that was just out of sheer determination of like, I'm not done, I don't want people to write me off? It was a bit of a fuck you basically to everyone who thought that initially, you were coming back.
Yeah, it was, and to my inner voice in the head saying, you're done now. But then my mindset changed, a big mindset change there, because that's when I found faith. So I'm a born-again Christian. And when you get to a point where you nearly lose your leg, you nearly lose your businesses, because I had a couple, you nearly lose your sponsorship, so you nearly lose your house. So all these things, you're like, dude, I made one tiny mistake, and that's it. I was like, there's got to be more to life than this. And I was already like miserable anyway, because I was achieving goals, and I say it's like a desert. When you're walking around life's sometimes like a desert, and you get an oasis, so you get an achievement, you get a goal. I wanted to join the police. I got in the police. You drink from that water in the desert, from the oasis that you think it's going to be, salty water. Didn't taste nice, didn't like it. Right, so I'm going to set myself another target. So then you set yourself another target, and sometimes the water tastes nice for a little bit, but then eventually it dries up or it gets salty and bitter. So I was always moving on to the next thing, and I was just exhausted, because you in strongman especially, you're only as good as your last competition. So that's when I figured out, like, there's got to be more to life than this. It can't just be destination after destination after destination after destination, because you spend 90% of the time on the journey and maybe 5-10% of the time at the destination. And then what you're just going to spend? I've got to spend life, so I've got to find goals to do. If I reach 80 years old, I've got to. And I thought,
so you saw this cycle of like setting a goal, achieving it, setting a goal, achieving it, and every time you reached that goal, it was never quite what you thought it was.
And then the next one would have to be bigger. So it's because you go, right, well, that hasn't satisfied, so I've got to do a next thing. And then obviously, when someone introduced me to Jesus and all that.
How did that start? What happened there?
So I had some friends who were Christians.
Okay.
So I had some friends who were Christians, and it was quite funny because I used to go on holiday with them to Lanzarote, because I thought these Christians, like, they give it subsidised. So I went to Lanzarote for 120 quid for the week. And I was because I've been quite a few times, and I used to think, these Christians are mugs. All I have to do is listen to half an hour talk in the evening, and I can get drunk in that as well. So I was like, yeah, I'll come on that. Yeah, just to listen.
So you went for a free boozing holiday, basically. And then you ended up being Christian.
Yeah, and then basically that year, because I couldn't be my cocky self, I had to sit there and listen. And it was God speaking through the guy, saying that basically there's more to life. There is more to life than achieving goals, and then eventually you just die. So
and that really resonated with you at the time, from where you were.
That is exactly what I needed to hear at that time. So that's when I said, you know what? I think I even said to the guy, I said, F it. I'm going to say the prayer, and I'm going to become a Christian. So then that's when external changes didn't happen as much, but internal changes happened. So this is when my heart started changing. It's like, instead of, I was all about what I could achieve and what I would do and what other people thought of me, and I was quite a selfish person. And that showed in relationships, that showed in my friendships, that showed in my business, that showed in my strongman career. And then all of a sudden it's like, actually, you've got to try and put other people before yourself. And that's not something that you learn straight away. The want then changes inside you. So then eventually, once that grows inside you enough, it starts showing in your actions externally. Yeah. So that's why when I had, God gave me the grace to come back and came 5th at UK Strongest Man, and I looked at the guy who won, and that was Gavin Bilton at the time. He was 6'6" and 200 kilos in body weight. And I looked at him and I was like, the only thing I could do now, because at UK Strongest Man I'd come 8th, I'd come 5th, I'd come 4th, and I'd come 2nd. The only next achievement would be to win it. Mm-hmm. And I looked at him and I just went, I can't beat giants. I'm not willing to carry on with the risk of, how many chances do you think you get? I've lost a bicep, pec, and nearly lost my leg. Yeah. How many chances do you think you actually get before your luck does run out? So at that point, that's when I said, all right, I'm done with strongman. I'm going to end on a high. I've proved that I can come back. Yeah. And I achieved what I wanted to achieve. I got what I deserved because I put the work in. And now I was like, right, well, if I'm not doing me anymore, what am I doing? So that's when I thought, right, I want to help other people achieve their goals. So I want to set up the best gym that I am capable of doing. So that's where the station gym was born, in that perception. So obviously, you see that station gym, and that's where you guys train most of the time. So, yeah. So that's how the concept of it was born.
I honestly, from my kind of, introduction to you, the station gym, and the whole community there, on day one, Tom was there.
Yeah.
And he was unpacking some boxes, and as I said, I'm a local PT. We do some online coaching, and I want a new place to train. I'm sick of the JD. I'm sick of the bravado. I'm sick of the pretentiousness in these other gyms. I just need somewhere where I can come, be surrounded by guys who want to work hard, but also have someone to say hello to when I walk through the door. Yeah. And that gym has fulfilled everything for me and more. And I've said to you a few times, like, the community you built there is phenomenal. Like, I've got clients coming to me now and saying, I want to join. I've literally, one of my clients this week has just joined station because I've said to him a few times, I love the community. He's getting sick of pure gym and just guys and girls just posing in mirrors that are constantly, like, they're not there to work hard, they're there to kind of just
the Instagram
be show basically. I'm don't get me wrong, I like the occasional selfie, the gym selfie, but I'm there for 99.9% of it to work hard. I might get a cheeky snap at the end when we're looking good, but I'm there to work hard. I'm there to kind of be in the zone and train hard, and I've my lifts and my everything about my performance, even my own physique, looks better after training at your gym. I just think it's fantastic, and forget the kind of training aspects of it. The community side is awesome, and I can really see. Obviously, you met Tom at church.
Yes.
Did you meet Pierce at church?
No. Pierce doesn't believe what we believe.
Okay. Well, you and Tom. I totally understand why you met at church, because the environment is very community based. Like, you've got guys in there who are really, really kind of international based powerlifters, strongmen, national based as well. And you've also got people who are just literally starting their journey and like just getting into fitness and joining classes. And it's a real melting pot of like ideas and goals and people just interacting who wouldn't normally interact. To go back to titanium strength, I never trained there, but I heard it was very much powerlifting, strongman, bodybuilding maybe based. Then you get more of like your like Nuffield Health, shall we say, for example, in Sheffield, which is more like very health gym conscious. Station is everything, all in one spot, and everything you know about business, everything I'm told about business is like niche, basically. Go into one section and specialise in that. And when I heard about what you guys are doing, I was like, that can't work. There's no way you can work. But God, you've made it work so well. So well, and I can't say any praises enough on how, if I was going to develop a gym with a community, it will be what you've got. Well, there's no doubt about
Thank you so much. Well, that comes from instead of the strongman focusing on me achieving my goals, I now get more satisfaction in seeing other people like yourself finding somewhere where they're kind of loved, they're accepted, with warts and all. And that's what we wanted. That's why we split the gyms into 3 different sections. Because obviously we accept that people are different, they have different needs. But at the same time, we're all in the human race. We're all on this journey together. So let's at least try and help one another along the way. And because we pass on the kindness and we have great guys like you that come to the gym, it's easy to spread. But that's and it does spread throughout, because when you're kind to someone, it makes them feel good. It makes them feel nice, which makes that person then want to pass that on. Because you've got the same with the nasty mentality as well. When you're driving and someone pisses you off, okay, you're then pissed off and you take it home to your missus, or you take it home to you take it to your pals. This guy, but the thing is, being kind and being generous and being nice to someone has the exact opposite effect, but it can squash that fire and actually start something fresh, maybe like water, should we say.
Kindness is disarming, isn't it? Like sometimes if you can, in the face of real anger and rage, actually present yourself as being quite calm and open and almost sympathetic to someone who's in your face being very aggressive, it's amazing how disarming that is. But that takes real discipline and focus, and actually more than anything else, I think it's experience and age that comes with.
That's hard. I know that's hard. But it is worth it, because you see, when you do get that, that person almost goes into guilt mode.
They do. You see them turn, don't you?
That's a good way.
It's like their get out. It's like, you don't have to be angry at me. It's like, I'm not angry at you anymore. And you can see how they kind of try and back out. 10 minutes later, they'll probably come and say, look, I'm really sorry about that. And it's diffused.
Prime example is like when I used to play football as a kid. Like I used to play centre back and be a real tussle between me and the striker, and their all game would be nicking each other's heels and would be standing each other, like pulling each other's shirts, just giving each digs. And you get to the end of the game, and if it was a really close game and you'd had some really good moments in the game where you'd won some battles and he'd won some, you get to the end of it and go, this has actually been a really good battle. Like, it's actually been quite enjoyable from an outside point of view. And you can see the fans have loved the kind of little tussle every time we've got the ball and we've gone head to head. And you get to the end of the game and you go, actually, mate, fair play. You shake your hand and you go, that was a great game. Thank you for giving me a real challenge today. And that I love that kind of side of it, where you can be in the moment quite competitive. That's why sport's so good, because you can be very competitive and you can have a common enemy. But at the end of it, you all shake hands and you're all like, actually. And again, strongman's prime example of that. You're there. You're in. You'll know this. You go to war basically in strongman, don't you? And when you go into an event, your mindset is, this is pure aggression and war, and I'm here to win. But at the end of it, like, I love the strongman. Even now, watching the guys online, you get a real sense of, like, it's a community. Like we're you guys are in the top, like, 0.001% of the people in the country who are that strong, and you realise that this is our little community. And I think that overlays into the gym, and it overlays into, like, the community you built at Station. It's just, it's awesome. Really
Thank you. For people who don't know this, Phil's technically my, like, professional landlord. So, I am his tenant. And, to echo what Ryan's just said, like, when I first walked into Station, I don't know what actually possessed me to walk into Station. Because I think I've said this before, like, I was the ex-general manager of a gym, and then I stepped down to be a PT. And I felt like...
you had a successful career.
There was no reason for me to move. No reason at all. Things were going really well. And I thought, do you know what? I need to sort of prove that I can do this in a new space to myself. And then that's when I met Tom, yourself. And I got home and told my wife, and she's like, why? Why on earth are you even considering it? And I'm like, well, something's drawn me to there. And that word, probably kindness. And I don't know. Like, Ryan mentioned about not having a niche. Like, I may as well be called Jack. Like, I'm very much a jack of all trades. I'm all right at a bit of everything. So I really resonated with that, and I'm like, oh, cool. This is going to be really good, actually. I want to see a gym do what I'm trying to embody as a PT. So that's lived up to expectations.
I think it's nice, as a coach, I can vouch for that. It's nice to have sometimes clients with different goals, and same thing, like we're told in our industry, niche, and maybe there's a certain demographic that we want to work with, but I don't just want to get people shredded all the time. I don't just want to get people building muscle all the time, even though I absolutely love that. It's part of what I've done my whole lifting career. But I I like working with people with really obscure goals. Like I had an ultramarathon runner last year come to me and say,
nice.
I do 70-mile runs, but there's something about that 70-mile run that I can't break. We start doing strength and conditioning. Immediately, she's doing like 100 miles now. And it was just a small tweak in her training. And these very obscure people who've got quite unique goals and unique places in their life with their bodies. And I don't want to just work with one person. I love challenges as a coach, for sure.
And I think both of you, from my external perspective, from you guys, I think if you chip away, obviously who you want to help, who you want as clients and stuff. If you chip away at it, it's the ones that you think you can help. So you have this surface of you're good at stripping body fat, so that's obviously your kind of niche, but actually you like helping people achieve their goals. It's first of all, it's a problem solving thing, but second of all, it's a kindness thing. And business doesn't say be kind. Business says be cutthroat. If you need to stand on someone, well, that's just what successful people have to do. But actually, I think business works very well when you treat humans like humans, and you acknowledge that they are not just a source of income; they are a human being. And if you just do it for money, there's not much satisfaction. There is an achievement of you, like you guys get when someone, like I was watching you PT, someone who had mobility problems. As they get better, you get that sense of, well, yes, you get paid. That's a byproduct, but actually, you've improved that person's life. You've helped in it. A lot of people in this world take, and when they leave this world, they have only taken. They've not added much to the world. But as you guys, who is helping individual people, it makes a difference because you have an impact on that person throughout their journey in their life, and you've improved them. And there is that factor of you feel good for that. You feel good for that. Not just and like I said, the money is a byproduct. You're both good at what you do, so you get paid well for what you do. But if you take away that satisfaction, that feel good factor at the end, I say it's the God factor, being good to your neighbour, then it wouldn't be worth it, and you wouldn't be enjoying it as much. You're doing this podcast now because you want to reach people, you want to encourage people, you want to help people, and a byproduct is that you want to get known for it and you could earn some money from it. So that's the byproduct. But the main focus is seeing what people need and helping those people, and all these other things, they come along with it. It's like a magnet.
The fundamentals of every successful business are two things, I think. Number one is value. Like, what value are you bringing to someone's life, whether it is a product or a service? And number two, the one thing that I think not enough people put enough importance on is customer service.
Yes.
That's the one thing from day one. And I honestly believe in the early days of R5 and why I did pretty well is because I was just really good at customer service. I'd worked in the service industry a lot. I'd worked in like retail most of my kind of teenage years and even to into uni, but I understood what it meant to be like to give someone like a really good service, like for them to feel like welcome at a place and to feel like they're getting the most value for their money. Like that's one thing for me that I really want to give people. Like, do you feel you're getting a lot for your money? And that's why we've got a really good retention rate in terms of clients, because people come, they get invested, they realise they're getting a hell of a lot out of this service, and they want to stay around, they want to keep going, they want to see how far they can push it.
Yeah. I think especially from a management perspective as well, my management philosophy used to be all about customer flow. So if you get to the desk and there's a problem with your account, that's one little stumbling block. The flow, it's not quite there. You get to the changing rooms, maybe you've not got £1 for the locker, that's another stumbling block. So the flow is not there. So I think one thing that we've all got in common, sat around this table, is we really value that customer flow. We want the minute that somebody walks through the door to when they leave, everything's flowed nicely, like there's no obstructions, customer service is great, and that from a business principle and just from a life principle, like you can tell if something gets blocked from a flow perspective and just how irritating it is.
I love that kind of phrase and how you've worded that. It's so important that as soon as a customer comes on board, they feel like it's just easy. Like they slot right in. It fits into their lifestyle great. And in the kind of services that we provide, which is health and fitness, a lot of this stuff is new to people. It's a secondary thought in their week and day. And our job is to streamline it. So it's like, right, this is how we're going to get this into your week and, and into your lifestyle, essentially.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I say this as someone who works with a lot of PTs and qualifies a lot of PTs, the bar's quite low.
Yeah.
And that's a massive shame that the people don't really get the customer service factor, the people over profit first. Like, let's really put people over profit, make it client-centric, and that's probably what really magnetised me to Station. Yeah.
It comes out in the wash, because eventually, if you just see people as money, if you just see what can I take from them, your career won't last. It may be good for a while or anything, but eventually everything comes out in the wash, and the mentality comes through. Actually, this person doesn't care about me, they just care about the money. There's so and so over there, there's Ryan or there's Brad over there who actually care about what I achieve and how I do. So yeah, and it, like I say, it comes out, it's sad that it's low, but they reap what they sow.
I want to circle back. I want to come back onto you, Phil. I want to circle back to can
I do a toilet break?
Yeah, sure. We're going to take a short break. We'll be back in 2 seconds.
Let's do it.
All right, we're back. Toilet break's done and dusted. So one thing I wanted to do was just circle back to obviously post-injury. I know we've chatted a little bit in the past about kind of your mental health around that time. I think you touched on it a second ago, but you brushed over it very quickly, I think. And I want to go a little bit deeper into kind of like, how tough that period of time was when you, like I said, you were losing your sponsors. You had a gym you were having to pay for. You couldn't train. You were questioning a lot of things about the sport and whether you were ever going to compete again, and a bit of self-doubt in there. How was that? Would you say that was one of the lowest moments in your life so far?
At the time, yes, but I can genuinely, hand on heart, say, because it changed my mentality, obviously finding the faith and everything, I can genuinely say I'm very glad that happened to me, which is insane to say. At the time, it was horrific, and I was scared, and I didn't know what to do. But looking back on it, like we were talking about storms earlier, looking back on that storm was where my ship changed direction significantly. Not that I wanted it to at the time, but it forced to change direction, which made me got me to where I am today. So I can see the benefit, and I've obviously got this huge scar on my leg now, and I've got a bit of ankle restriction movement, so I can't run very fast. I used to be very fast. I can't run very fast, and obviously get pain in it sometimes. But to me, all that was worthwhile because of where I've got to today. And what I'm doing, obviously sat around, I wouldn't be speaking to you guys here today, as two of my friends. So I'm thankful for everything that's happened.
I think that's an amazing way to look at things, because there will be people listening who are going through some stuff. I've got a couple of clients whose like parents are ill, for example, and they're having to really look after them, and they're almost counting down the days potentially until they're not around. And I suppose for you personally, is that something you dealt with internally yourself? Did you speak to many people, or was it just that community aspect from church, for example, that were really helpful and insightful for you?
So initially, obviously, I'd not made any choice in faith, so that was the time where I was really struggling. I was why do you think I'd listen to the talks instead of just get drunk and heckle at the back? So because I was searching, it's like there's got to be more. There's got to be more to what if I lose this? What have I got? And then obviously that's where that filled the gap of the fulfillment in life, because like I said, remember, the journey is 95% of the time, 90 to 95% of the time, but the destination is 5 to 10% of the time. Do you want to go through life being miserable for 90% of the time until you get to there, and then you have to take another one? So what I've done now is I've actually learned that the journey is the bit that you can be satisfied in and you can enjoy. You can enjoy the journey, and that means the vast majority of your life you can enjoy it. Don't get me wrong, I still have massive goals and dreams and aspirations and stuff, but it means that the journey, although sometimes it's very, very hard, I've learned to be content in the journey. I think that's it sometimes, because when people are going through adversity, it's not like I'm really enjoying this. It's like, no, let's be realistic, you're not enjoying this, but you struggle forward through that storm and you reflect back on it after it's over. But then during the storm, it's important to have those people around you that care about you, your close friends, your family. If you said some of your clients are going through some hard times, this is the time where you can't hold yourself up. Don't try and be that person. I can be strong and look after everyone. Oh, you're kidding. Who are you kidding? No one is self-made. No one is not solely self-made. No one is solely held up by on their own strength. Everyone needs help from time to time, and that is the time. The storms are the time when you need to turn to someone and say, look, I really am struggling here. I don't know what to do. And then that person could maybe give you some advice, or maybe just sympathise and empathise with you. Just go through it with you, take you out for a drink or go out for a walk in the country. So that's where it's so important. And when your mental health is like that, don't try and be strong. And that's the stupidest thing you can do when you're really struggling and suffering, but you think that you've got to put this face on for people. It's like, who are you kidding? Like, you need to be honest with your friends, with your spouse, with your friends, or someone close to you, a work colleague or something. Because in a way, people like helping one another, especially if you've got a good relationship with that person. Try and see it as you're giving them an opportunity to be kind to you, which is what they want to do, which builds relationships. And I always say relationships are built by two things. Time spent with someone, okay, you've got your childhood friends and stuff like that you've just spent years and years, but also experiences. What have you been through together? What, like, adversities have you been through together? That builds relationships, those two things. So that is an opportunity. When you're going through a tough time, it's an opportunity to really build relationships and to know who the people are that actually are your lifelong friends, or the ones that you need in your life, and some that you don't need. Because if some people will reject it and they won't want to help you, but take that on as information and say, right, I'm going to slowly part my way from that person because they obviously don't really care about me. So it's
difficult conversations, aren't they? You know, people who've sometimes been very much a feature of your life for a long time, but then when times are really tough, unfortunately, they're just not there in the way you need them to be. And actually, it's some friends who really surprise you. I found when you're in your darkest moments, when you kind of reach out, and some people go, yeah, you know what? It's normally the people who've been there themselves before, and they go, I see where this guy's going. I've been there. I know how I felt in that position, and I know the advice I needed. And it's also great, as you guys have probably had in the past, to be able to give out that information and that help as well to people who really need it. And sometimes it's not just close friends, it's like, or family members, it's like clients for us as well. Like, we have got a lot of clients reach out to us with really personal, deep issues, and it's so nice sometimes to be able to kind of offer a service of, like, not just getting them in shape, but also actually being a bit of an agony aunt. And some coaches really don't like that, but actually for me, if I can get into someone's life a little bit more, improve them in one area, it's amazing how much that actually benefits their health and their physique. Like, if we can spend the first 10 minutes of a session just having a bit of a, right, let's have it out, what's been going on, talk to me, a few tears, bit of waterworks, and then all of a sudden they're like, right, I'm really happy I did that, I've got it off my chest. I feel they feel lighter after kind of releasing that information, and then now they go into the session thinking, right, now I can give 100% because I've not got this thing on my brain. And, you know, problem shared is a problem halved. And I think I'm all for that kind of mentality around just get it out there. And I'm honestly, lads, I'll put my hands up, I'm terrible. If I've got like issues that I'm dealing with, the last thing I want to do is burden someone else with that. But it's so important that you have someone you can feel, you just speak to. And I've got one mate who, if anything's getting pretty bad and I'm in a dark place, I've got one guy I go to, and like he's the guy who's like, and we've had some really deep conversations about these things. And you need, even if it's just one person in your life you go to and you have those chats with, and you say, this is what I'm struggling with, and can we have a minute? And those are sometimes the nicest conversations. It's amazing how you bond with people over those conversations.
I resonate with it a lot. I think it's maybe down to being like the oldest of boys in particular. You think, well, I've got to be strong. Do you know what I mean? But when you internalise it, and you only have to look at the stats, the statistics about men's mental health, and just how much it's almost on a decline right now, and how much of that is people just, you know, pride almost getting them killed. And the rates, I'm sorry to put a massive downer on this podcast, but I think the greatest risk to men under the age of 45 is himself. It's staggering.
Absolutely.
Like, those stats are just horrific. So, you know, check in with people.
But one thing I will say is, like, anyone who's listening to this and is struggling, or you can see someone struggling, like, you can see it in people's behaviours. You can see it in, like, you mentioned, which we're going to get onto in a second, is like coping mechanisms. We all have a stressful coping mechanisms, things we do as an outlet for stress. I've had some pretty destructive things I've done in the past, I think I've had some really kind of good things that I've done in the past. I think for us all, like gym and exercise and training is a great outlet for our stress and our pent up energy. But you mentioned like drinking as well, like, and you know, potential like drug use. Like, is that something that's been like a feature of your coping mechanisms before you found faith, like in the height of the down days?
Because I was, as I said when we were talking about this journey of stepping from oasis to oasis to oasis, I was getting so tired, and I was introduced to friends who liked cocaine, and obviously I liked drinking anyway from the police culture, and obviously I couldn't take any of that in the police. So now I left, I was like, you know what, sod it, I'm going to try this, and then obviously that does give you that relief,
absolutely,
for a short time, and then it comes back. What I always say is it used to rob your happiness for the next 3 days. So basically, any happiness you would have had in those next 3 days, you get in one dose and you have none of it for the next. So you feel really down. So it's a temporary relief, but it's a big, big downer. But I know that's a culture now, especially with a lot of young men, because they want that relief, because they want that vent. They want that. They want to feel good, but they're not going down the right lines because the drug use, it will make you ultimately worse. It may relieve you, it may quench your thirst for a very short period of time, but it gets salty very, very quickly. And obviously salt water does a lot, it dehydrates you more than anything else. And it was what we were talking about. What you need is you need to have that good relationship with people that you know, people maybe that you've known for a long time, or and just, it's cutting that edge. It's that, how do I, you have to be the big guy sometimes. You have to say to that person, look, I'm struggling with this, because if you're going out on a Friday and Saturday night and sniffing cocaine and getting smashed, you've got issues that you're not dealing with, because it is an escapism. And you may say, oh, it's just because I'm having a good time, I like having a good time. It's like, well, is your life that bad that you're not enjoying it so much that you have to do this? So anyone who does
it's really
that,
hard. I think it's quite hard in the moment to know that thing as well, and to kind of have that kind of, I mean, if it's getting to the point where it's every weekend and it's most nights, and that's when you kind of, obviously there's a glaring thing it's slapping in the face, like this is something that's getting out of control. But sometimes just even the occasional release is hard to kind of know when it's bad. I mean, how bad did it get for you when it was like really bad?
I was probably spending about £1,000 a month on it.
Really?
Wow. So it was, because
would you say it was a borderline addiction at the time?
Yes.
Would you?
But I held it together somehow. But
what was the catalyst for stopping? I mean, because cocaine's high.
The faith changed it all.
Was it?
And I knew it was bad. I mean, the first time you do it and you try it and stuff, it's like, wow, this is the best thing ever. And then it slowly becomes, because it's the best thing ever, it becomes your idol. You become to worship it. You become to rely on it. You become a slave to it. It's very weird how it twists around from being a great thing to... Actually, this thing has got complete power over you. It controls you. You think about it. You have to have it. If you can't have it, it's a problem.
It's funny because I think we take those things in the kind of when we need a real pick me up and we want to feel good for a second. And if that's the only thing at the moment that is making you feel good, you can see why you keep going back to it and then back to it and back to it. It's not just kind of, it's not just drugs, but it's also, like I said, alcohol. Sometimes it's like people. Sometimes people that we know are really bad for us, we keep going back to, because sometimes
relationships,
relationships or just friendships that like we've had good times with those people in the past, and we're clinging on to that one thing, but we know they're not really that good for us. And you know, even being around the kind of cocaine scene, sometimes it's like you have to accept that saying no to certain friendships and pushing people away is the best thing for getting away from those really toxic things for you.
It's that purpose driven as well. Like for anyone listening who's maybe thinking, faith's not really for me, I think it's looking at maybe what gives you purpose in your life. Like I'll say it, like for me it's my wife, my son, and my work. Like it's amazing, those three things in particular, in no particular order, I will add.
Mrs. will be pulling me up now.
Yeah, she'll be like, why'd you say
You said
something first?
You said work last.
Sorry, I meant work second. But now I'm in trouble. I think it's just latching onto that purpose and thinking, is this going to either allow me to spend more quality time with my family, or allow me to spend more time on my purpose and to give back like you said, Phil, rather than just hiding away and using something as escapism.
Yeah.
Because, I think that's really important to just be super aware of why you do what you do.
Absolutely. And just being super self-aware all the time. And it is hard in the deep, dark moments, but again, talking to people is key, because they can highlight those things that you maybe can't see in yourself. And some of the worst things you can go through sometimes, I think, is like an intervention, where some people pull you aside and say, this ain't great. And sometimes it's just one person that will do that to you. Like, I've had my missus pull me up so many times about working too much. And for her, I know it's taken a lot, and it's not just, when she pulls me up on it, I know it's not just in the moment her thinking, I'll do that. I'll have a conversation while it's free. It's an accumulation of weeks, of months sometimes, of like really
so
bad.
You know it's a problem.
And then the way she kind of talks about it, and uses a few waterworks and tears, and it's like, then I have to go, okay, you're right. I get very clouded in my work and very focused on what I'm doing and growing and building. As you mentioned, I'm in this.
Nothing to repeat.
Hello.
Siri's trying to get involved now.
To repeat. Go on, Siri.
We're not asking you the questions.
No.
But yeah, usually it's like that accumulation of a few weeks and months, and we have that conversation. When you were talking before about kind of like how it's all about goal setting and reaching that destination, and then what's the next goal, and the next goal, and the next goal. And I feel that all the time, and there's a certain sense of pressure with it as well, to be like always doing better, and coming back to that kind of phrase of being stagnant as well. Like, that will go to my mind if I'm not kind of progressing with like my business or my work or my physique or my performance in the gym. If something's not kind of moving forwards, I hate that feeling of being stagnant. That's almost as bad as going back for me. But there's pressure with that. There's pressure to always move forward.
Where does that pressure come from?
God, we're going to go really deep now, but I think
go.
a lot of it stems from, like, my dad was a very high achiever. Like, he was the accountant to millionaires, basically. So he was around a lot of very successful people. And when I was a kid, it was always that feeling of, like, it's not quite enough. It's not quite enough to do here. It's not quite enough here. So I do have that sense of, like, I'm never done, I'm never satisfied, and I can't just sit back and admire what's gone on, because that for me is weakness. It means I'm not moving forwards. And
But as you're saying that out loud, you know that's a lie, don't you?
I feel like you're probably easier to coach on this because you have to pull rather than push. All you have to do is say you've got the drive.
I know. It's funny because I know everything. I know all the fundamentals of it, and I know why it's wrong. But at the moment with work, I just can't stop. I can't stop. I feel like I'm in the zone now. And I literally, before we come on to this podcast today, I was listening to another podcast by the owner of Represent, George Heaton, and Stephen Bartlett. Fantastic podcast. I'm about 3/4 of the way through, and these are guys who are super, super high level achievers. Both have like £100 million businesses, both investors, and phenomenally driven blokes who are kind of very similar age to me. And some of the things they talk about, I just resonate with. Like George Heaton was saying, Kobe Bryant wasn't up at 3 a.m. in the morning doing jump shots because he had work-life balance. He had no work-life balance. It was all work. And if you want to achieve certain things, there has to be that lack of balance. And I appreciate that. But I actually think, for me, my family gives me balance. Like Amy gives me balance. Harlow gives me balance, because I know that if they weren't around, I would be a nightmare. I'd be a complete work monster. Right? And that, I know that probably wouldn't do me any favours. And I know that they're great for mellowing me out and chilling me out and giving me like some more grounded feelings on things, and that's so important for me, because I don't have that sense of like self-reflection sometimes.
I think a lot of it comes from gratefulness. Like you said, you've already got a beautiful house, you've got a Porsche, you've got a beautiful wife, a beautiful child, a nice little dog, and it's like, it's very, and I'm preaching to myself here, you've got to be very careful that your ambition doesn't blind you of how much you already have. And that's where the gratefulness comes in, to actually sometimes reflect and say, and I do the same thing, say, actually, because I think the station could be better, but then I'm hearing you guys talk about it and saying how like you enjoy it so much. Sometimes I forget that, which means you miss the joy of what you already have because you're looking to tomorrow to try and get something that you haven't got yet. And then you find that's when you go into your oases and searching. So this is a big problem with ambitious males as well, I think, and females, because then that
Never being satisfied.
Never being satisfied is no way to live life. It's again the journey. It's like, I'll be happy when, I'll be happy when, I'll be happy when. No, you won't. Unless you learn to be happy in where you are right now, with the purpose you are, like you were saying, with the purpose for your family, going to the park and stuff like that. Unless you're happy in the journey, you are not going to have a happy life. The destinations are few and far between. Mountain tops don't last very long. You walk up a mountain. How long does it take you to walk up a mountain? Okay, how long do you stay at the top for the view? And then you're like, actually, I have to come back down now to go to the next mountain and the next mountain and the next mountain.
But you keep going back up them because you love the process of it all.
But that's what we've got to get to in life, enjoying that journey, which that is, once you've conquered that, that is, and I don't think you will ever fully conquer that, but that, I think that is something where you will be enjoying your life. And if you're enjoying your life, then it seems to be, if you're enjoying the walk up the mountain, you're going to be more prompted to do. You're going to, actually, I'm really enjoying this. I'll keep plodding on. If you're doing it, say, I just want to look at the top. I just want to look at the top. I just want to look at the top. You're missing the view on the way up because you're just going, I'm focused. Actually, as you start getting up the mountain, you've got these beautiful views to watch. And I think that's the same in life. You've got these beautiful things that happen around you, but we're blind to it because we just go, I need to get to the top.
And actually, it actually makes the whole process a lot less enjoyable when you're way too focused. Like you sometimes get it when you speak to a quite successful person or someone who's got an amazing physique or something, and they're quite relaxed about it. And I love that approach, and I do try and take kind of thoughts and feelings from that, where I'm like, just enjoy it a little bit more. Because let's say tomorrow, right? I snapped my fingers and you had everything you wanted. You had all the things you wanted, whether it was the business you wanted, the kind of money you wanted, the career you wanted, the relationship, family you wanted. What happens when you get there? Like, if someone just gave it you overnight, you wouldn't have any appreciation of it because you've not had to work for it. No. But then when you get there, you realise it was the work and the purpose of that whole process that you were really enjoying. And you're like, that's why you get a lot of guys who sell their companies. They make all the money in the world. They can retire. They can live, fruitfully for the rest of their life now. And their kids will be fine. But they become very unhappy, very depressed. And I've had clients who've sold businesses and come to me and have gone in some pretty dark places because they just realise they've got no purpose now. And we have to keep reminding ourselves as business owners, as people who are striving for goals and trying to achieve things, that it's the purpose of what we're doing that's the most important thing right now. That is the prize. That is the gold. Anything that comes alongside that, any value we can add, any customer service we can provide, any monetary things we can get from it, are all like an added bonus, really. It's us enjoying that process.
To flip that on its head a little bit, to go from clicking your fingers and having everything to click your fingers to having nothing. This is one of the drills that I had to go through from counselling sessions, like grievance counselling. They said, right, we're going to do, I think they call it like the nothingness drill. And they said, right, click my fingers, you've got nothing, you've got no material possessions, I've picked you up, dropped you in Peru, you don't speak the language, I want you to visualise that, what's it look like, what are you going to do? And weirdly, you start to build confidence with it, because you think, actually, I'd find a way to get myself back home. I know that I could rebuild. So anything you go through, you sort of go, I'll be all right regardless. Because as long as I've got that level of self-confidence, self-ability, that willingness to get through it, that I found that one of the most powerful drills that I've ever done from a mental visualizing point. And to the point where she said, like, I want you to really feel it, like feel what it's going to feel like you're miles away from home, you've got no way of contacting, and it's a fun thought experiment sometimes.
Yeah. Just that carefree moment for a second where everything's gone and you just
everything's gone, and what are you going to do?
I like that.
It's deep, that.
It's another thing with that is about the gratefulness is, imagine tomorrow, going on similar to what both of you said, imagine tomorrow all you had tomorrow was what you were thankful for today. And then that makes you realise how much you have in your life. So,
I think gratefulness is a great drill, and mindfulness. And I got into this a few years back, where I read a book and they said every day just write down 5 things you're grateful for at the start of the day. It's amazing how much it brightens your day up and how much you just go into the day feeling like yeah, you know what? I've got food in the fridge. I have got a roof over my head. I've got a car I can drive. I've got a girlfriend who loves me. I've got a family who's supportive. And you start going for all these things, actually, yeah, I've got a lot of things. But
There's a lot more than 5, isn't there?
Yeah, there's a lot more than 5. But you don't choose. You write down every day, and you would try and choose different things. It's amazing over the space like a couple of weeks how many influences I've got friends who I can go and see in different cities and countries. There's so many positive things, but I think we get very insular and focused on the negatives in our life and what we haven't got rather than what we have got. So, as always, we've gone very philosophical on the podcast, as we always do. But I always love this side of things because people are so, multifaceted, aren't they, in terms of what they've been through. And is there any other questions you want to ask to Phil?
I think I just wanted to shine a bit of a light on how probably creative-minded you are, Phil, as well. That's one thing that's probably pleasantly surprised me. Specifically about the Super Mario wall that's just been done. Like, hats off to you. That's much more patient than what I would have been.
Thank you.
Enjoy that process.
You know what? I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was one of those where 2 hours had gone by and I felt like it had only been 15 minutes.
Yeah. I think we'll put a photo up on the YouTube now, anyone watching, of the wall and the mural that is currently available inside Station Gym. And it's a Super Mario wall. It's got everything from Mario himself and the little kind of biting tree that comes out. Bowser's in there. Is there a mushroom in there as well? There's a mushroom in there. Yeah. And
it's worth a visit to see.
Just for the mural. This mural's huge. The creative side of you is something that's quite cool to see as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Anything else you want to add?
Not from me. Phil, you got any questions for me and Ryan?
No, I really enjoyed it. It was really nice guys. I really enjoyed it. So thank you
for coming down. All I'll finish with saying is Phil recently got married. So congratulations on your marriage now, and wishing you all the best there to you and
Phoebe.
Thank you. And obviously it's the Fit Dads podcast, so we've got to ask the question: is there any sign of some kids on the way?
I don't know yet. We're not trying, but we're not trying.
Okay.
So
cool.
If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I've got all the members. I've got 1,200 members to like children.
Little babies. Yeah. Phil, thank you for coming, mate. Awesome chatting with you.
Pleasure.
Thank you for being so open and honest, and we really appreciate that.
Pleasure.
Guys, thank you for joining us on the Fit Dads podcast. We'll see you on the next one.
See you soon.